something very inspiring about a collection of healthy looking plants or a bunch of beautiful flowers. Flowers and plants may look as though they take care of themselves, but as any gardener knows, things are never that simple. It takes time and effort to get the results you want, and attention to detail can make all the difference. And if that's important to an amateur gardener, it's absolutely vital to you, the retailer. Hello, I'm here to show you how by taking a few basic steps you can boost your business and maximise your profits. Now I know it sounds obvious, but by taking good care of your flowers and plants, you increase their shelf life and make them much more appealing to your customers. Up to 30% of sales are lost through plant wastage, not to mention the fact that those customers won't be rushing back to you if you've sold them a dud. You play a very important role in the business that you work for, so make sure you know what's expected of you. Your customers are going to come into the store expecting top quality, healthy plants and flowers. By taking good care of those plants and flowers, you'll not only encourage them to buy more, but you'll reduce the number that you throw away. Ornamental horticulture is big business. In 2006, 100 million pot plants will be sold in the UK, 220 million bedding plants, 300 million trees, shrubs and perennial plants in containers. It all adds up to at least £3 billion worth of sales. Plants go through a number of processes before they can be sold. Care is taken at every step to ensure flowers and plants are held at the right temperature and receive just the right amount of air, light and water to look their very best. They're then checked and watered before being transported to your store or garden centre. With your help, they will stay in this great condition until they reach your customer. So back to those all-important first impressions and some hints and tips on caring for your flowers and plants. Now we're going to be looking at indoor and outdoor displays, but there's some basic tips that apply to both groups. Plants require a number of things in order to survive. Light gives them the energy they need to produce leaves and flowers, while water is needed to transport nutrients and also to help grow new leaves. Air helps the plant to draw water through their leaves from their roots. By having a good airflow, it helps avoid disease, which thrive in humid conditions. When new deliveries arrive, check goods for damage such as broken stems, dead and dying plants, faulty packaging, temperature damage from transport, whether that's hot or cold, and any obvious pests, diseases and weeds. If you're unsure about any of the damage you see, check with your supervisor. Make sure your display and sales areas are clean and tidy. Dirty display areas reflect badly on your store as a whole. And try not to place plants under the shelves where they won't receive enough light and water. When you have to store plants prior to sale, make sure they're in the correct environment. Your store will have a particular way of dealing with deliveries, so make sure you're familiar with the procedure. Ideally, it's best to get the plants and flowers straight off the lorry and inside as soon as possible. Remove packaging like polythene and cardboard straight away, and don't leave plants on trolleys for too long as they won't receive enough air or light. And prioritise. Deal with delicate and light sensitive plants first. And if you're not sure which one's which, then ask your supervisor. And as with all plants, handle them all delicately. You don't want to damage the leaves, flowers or stems. When you're displaying flowers and plants, either indoors or outdoors, don't pack the shelves too tightly. They need to be able to breathe and get enough light. Also, remember to rotate the stock so the older flowers and plants are always in front of the new. Remove yellowing, dying and dead flowers and plants from display. This can significantly affect your credibility as a retailer, and it will also influence how much your customer is likely to spend. Make sure that buckets, pots, trays and shelves are free of plant debris. Finally, keep your shelves well topped up and facing the customer. Indoor displays include cut flowers, houseplants, tender bedding and plug plants, and in some stores may also include outside plants. The guidelines for looking after them are very similar to the outside plants, but what you do need to keep in mind are the artificial effects of lighting and heating. You don't want to be putting plants directly underneath a vent that can dry the plants out really quickly and may even scorch the flowers and leaves. Some plants, such as poinsettias and impatiens, need to be kept at a minimum temperature, so avoid placing them near the doors or in drafts where they'll get cold. Plants like this pot begonia that have holes in the bottom of their container should be placed on capillary matting. That way the moisture can get directly to the roots. Whereas plants that come in containers should be placed directly onto a shelf. If you put them on the capillary matting, you'll find that the container will look tatty and get dirty. When you water these, you'll have to do it by hand, and the way to check that they need watering is to stick your finger in. If the compost sticks to your finger, then it's okay. However, plants on capillary matting will have a dry surface to the compost. So to check if they need watering, you'll need to lift the plant pot up. If the pot is heavy, then it doesn't need watering. And remember to keep capillary matting moist at all times. When watering, make sure that you water the compost and not the foliage, as the force of the water can damage the foliage and flowers. Water plants gently, then that way you won't blast the compost out of the pots. Look out for dry and wilting plants, and if you see any, water them straight away. Having said that, with indoor plants, be careful not to overwater. You can kill a plant more easily by overwatering it than underwatering it, and you can't correct it very easily. The other thing is it's worth removing dead flowers and leaves to keep your plants looking fresh and healthy. Outdoor displays will include bedding plants, trees, shrubs and perennials, and their guidelines for care will be very similar to your indoor displays, but what you will have to take into consideration are the weather conditions. Displayed may not get enough water when it actually rains, and will also dry out quickly in hot or windy conditions. When displaying plants, ensure they're in the best conditions to suit their needs. Dry, sun-loving plants should be placed in the sunniest areas, and shade-loving plants should be placed under a canopy or in a shady area. You can tell whether a plant needs watering by lifting the container. If it's light, then it needs some water. And if you do see plants that are wilting or drying out, don't ignore them. Water them straight away, otherwise the plant could die. And watch out for plants that are in very small containers, as they dry out really quickly, as do the plants that are around the edge of a trolley. When you are watering, make sure that the water's going on the compost and not all over the foliage and flowers, because you can damage them. And water gently, that way you won't blast all the compost out of the pots. Daily watering will be essential for packs of bedding plants and hanging baskets. If you're using an automatic irrigation system, check for dry spots and water by hand. Also watch out for wet spots where you're using shelving or racking, as the bottom plants may receive 3 or 4 times more water than the top shelf as the water drains through. Check the weather forecast every day. If there's a risk of a frost, then you want to cover your tender plants with horticultural fleece. And don't forget about those ones that aren't in your display area. As for your hardy spring plants, they won't need covering with fleece because they've been grown on in an unheated glass house. Follow these simple tips to reduce waste and keep your business blooming. Remove dead and yellowing plants from sale. Ensure plants are placed in the correct environment to avoid deterioration. Do not overfill display areas. Unpack plants from packaging as soon as possible. Check plants regularly for watering needs. Ensure plants receive enough water by checking the compost. Water the compost rather than the foliage of the plants. Allow plants enough space to prevent damage from poor light levels. Sensitive plants need to be placed in the correct area away from drafts. Tender plants need to be protected from cold and windy conditions. Ensure plants are handled with care to avoid damage. With these simple tips, you'll be able to keep your plants and flowers healthy and your customers very happy.